Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ACC's 2022 Annual Membership Meeting. I'm Jean Shiomoto, ACC's Board Chair, and it's great to have you join ACC President and CEO Darrick Lam with me tonight. So to kick off the meeting, we have Glenn Watanabe and Esther Hokama singing Too Young to welcome everybody. It's worth mentioning that Esther and Glenn are wearing shirts from the days of ACC Bingo, where they were involved in the 80s and 90s. And so today they are still both very active at ACC, and Esther just turned 90 last month, so happy belated birthday to Esther. So let's hear them sing.
Thank you for inviting us, and thank you for the introduction. They try to tell us we're too young, to really be in love. They say that love's a word we've only heard, but can't begin to know the meaning of. And yet we're not too young to know this love will last, though years may go. And then someday they may recall we were not too young at all.
So wasn't that wonderful singing by Esther and accompanied by Glenn on the guitar? Wow, that was just wonderful. So thank you for being the opening act. We really enjoyed the show. So as the chair of the board, I want to thank outgoing board member Joyce Seri, who termed out and left the board. Joyce was on the board for 6 years and 3 years as the board secretary. So Joyce, we value her for her insight, her great questions, and getting the meeting minutes done timely, because we have a lot of meetings, and she just gets those minutes out to us, and we really appreciate that. But Joyce will continue on as part of an ACC by continuing on our four ACC standing committees. So next, I also want to thank Chang Wang, who stepped down as vice chair and my wingman. So Chang has been a guiding force for me for the last 2 years when I stepped into the chair position. And Chang is great wisdom and leadership. I really appreciate that. And Chang is continuing on the board and 4 standing committees. So we thank Joyce and Chang for your invaluable service to the board. So now I will introduce the 2022 Board of Directors and Officers. So our new vice chair is Tim Cochran, and Tim gladly accepted the vice chair position. And you might remember Tim as one of the co-hosts for the Big Day of Giving. And Tim is also really talented, and he helped build the sets for the Big Day of Giving. And I look forward to working closely with Tim this year. And our new secretary is Betty Matsuoka. Betty is taking over the secretary position, and during Betty's first time on the board, this is her second time on the board, she was the finance chair. So I look forward to working with Betty. And returning as our finance chair is Titus Toyama. Titus is great at spreadsheets and has been instrumental in onboarding ACC's new finance director, Michael Sallin, and we really appreciate all the work that Titus has done. And also we have 2 new board of directors. One is Betsy Donovan, and Betsy joined us last July, and she worked for Eschaton, and she was Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for 10 years before retiring. And now she has a consulting firm that specializes in skilled nursing, assisted living, continuing care retirement community, and memory care operations. So we welcome Betsy. And our newest board member is Brent Liu. And Brent was recruited by board member Catherine Sexton and Chang Wang. And Brent started first on the Lifelong Learning and Community Services Committee last year and has asked great questions. Brent is an assistant clinical professor at the Betty Irene Moore School of Nursing at UC Davis. We welcome both Betsy and Brent to the board, and we are fortunate to have this depth of experience on our board. So returning are a number of our directors. And first is Linda Kabatic. And Linda has been great. She has been on a number of committees, and she is co-chairing our audit committee this year. And next we have is Laura Conley. Laura comes to us. She is retired as the director of Department of Aging, and she also is hosting a writing class that we have gotten great reviews and really is leading people through talking and writing about their lives. We appreciate Laura for that. And Jeffrey Hirasuka is also on the board, and he is co-chair of the Greenhaven Terrace and Maple Tree Village Committee. We have Debbie Yata returning, and she was very instrumental in leading our fund development efforts last year, and I thank Debbie for returning. We have Paula Mashima, who's returning too, and Paula comes with great depth of experience in volunteering and fundraising. We appreciate Paula for being on the board. And Pam Yuzakami is also returning, and Pam is also co-chairing the audit committee for us and has been on other committees, Care Center Committee, and really has been a great volunteer. And Catherine Sexton is returning, and Catherine has been a great recruiter for us, and Catherine is co-chair of the Greenhaven Terrace and Maple Tree Village Committee. And Chang Wang also is also on the board, and Chang is returning, and he is on a number of committees, and he is volunteered to be the co-chair of the Volunteer Services Committee. So we thank everybody for being on the board, and I look forward to having a great time in 2022 with our board of directors. And so also we thank Darrick Lam as the CEO and Melanie Segar as the Chief Operating Officer and all the ACC administrators, managers, and staff for the dedicated work and support to the board.
Well, thank you, Jean, for the nice welcome and introduction. And now I'd like to introduce some of the managers and staff who are here at the Zoom meeting. So first and foremost is Melanie Segar, who is the Chief Operating Officer, and she oversees all the three senior living facilities, including the Care Center, the Greenhaven Terrace, as well as Maple Tree Village. Also joining us is Tony Waterford. He is the Chief Human Resources and Diversity Officer. So both Melanie and Tony have been with us for over 10 years. We also have Dave Lin, who is the Administrative Director, and he is overseeing plans operation and also in charge of corporate compliance. Also joining us is Michael Sellen, who is very new to ACC Senior Services, and he succeeds Lisa Poon as the Director of Finance. And then we have Carla Haley Clark. She's the Director of Marketing and Fund Development, and she already has restructured a department by having a grants coordinator as well as a sponsorship coordinator joining us. And then we have some other staff members, including the administrator for the different senior living facilities, Tamara Kario, who is the administrator for the Care Center. And then we have Yesenia Jones, the administrator for the Greenhaven Terrace. And then Harumi Hurrianco, who is the administrator for Maple Tree Village. There are also some other staff that I can leave them out of the introduction, but I want to thank each and every one of them for joining us tonight. So moving forward, I'd like to welcome those volunteers who are with us today, and those are the volunteers who have been with us for a very, very long time, and want to thank to their dedication and also being very, very supportive of us. And also some of you may be first-timers joining us. And so we framed this meeting as the ACC annual membership meeting. So according to the ACC bylaws, members are defined as those individuals who have made a financial contribution to the company. And so regardless of how much you contribute to us, we always treat you as a member. So I'd like to now try to set the stage for this next segment. And I would like you to know it has been a very, very hard year for us. 2021 was arguably the most difficult year we have had to face in our 50 years history, but not unlike what other organizations have gone through since the pandemic began in March 2020. So we have seen over 5.6 million people who have lost their lives around the world, of which we have over 866,000 in the US, almost 79,000 in California, and over 2,500 in Sacramento alone. And businesses are coping with the so-called Great Resignation or even shutting down. And we are all still looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. So today we have to face the Omicron variant. Who knows what tomorrow will be? And healthcare organizations, including the ACC Care Center, which is a 99 Best Skilled Nursing, are among the hardest hit. We are doing everything we can to protect the health and safety of our residents, doing our very best to mitigate the financial impact on ACC and the heavy toll taken on our employees. A little later, Melanie and Tamara and Yesenia and Harumi will tell you about the battles we are fighting every day. And then the ACC home and community-based programs like RIDES, family caregiver support, lifelong learning and wellness are still operating, but under strict health and safety guidelines. Only a few classes are being allowed on campus. However, as Jeri Shikuma, the administrator of this program, she will explain in her report how we adapt quite well to pandemic life, most notably with the operation of our online program. So first, I would like to ask Melanie, Tamara, Yesenia, and Harumi to share with all of us the reflection on the year 2021.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'd like to introduce our team to you. First, we have our newest administrator, Harumi Hurrianco, who has been with us since July of 2021 at Maple Tree Village. And then we have Yesenia Jones, our administrator at Greenhaven Terrace, who's been with ACC for a little over 6 years now, I think. And then we have Tamara Kario, our administrator at ACC Care Center, who has been with us since 2011. Thank you all for joining me for this annual report. Really appreciate it. So at the beginning of 2021, we were all hopeful that we would see an end to the pandemic and a return to normal operations. Of course, we know now that 2021 turned out to be anything but normal. I would say that the overarching theme for 2021 was really resilience, which is defined as the capacity of a person to maintain their core purpose and integrity in the face of dramatically changed circumstances. And that kind of encapsulates 2021, I think. I first want to thank each one of you for the resilience that you've shown over the last year and the dedication to your residents and to the staff at your respective buildings. I know that you've all worked very long, very hard days, many of those, and really want to appreciate all of your efforts and your leadership. Next, I'd like to talk with each one of you about what's been happening at your facility. So we'll start with Harumi. You joined us in July of 2021 at Maple Tree Village. And as we all know, MTV opened in January of 2020 when 15 residents moved over from Greenhaven Terrace. And so how are things going now in terms of census development? Harumi, what are you seeing there?
Currently we have 60 residents, I'm happy to say. 57 apartments are occupied. I understand that at the beginning of the year, there were about 40 something residents. we're getting ready, hopefully, to open again soon. So despite of everything that's gone through, even though census building was tough, I know that once we open, we're able to bring residents in. So I'm excited about that.
I have to brag on you a little bit there, Harumi. Actually, since you've been the administrator there, the census has increased 40%. So really appreciate all of your efforts. Maybe talk a little bit about, that team building. I know that's really your strength, and I know you spent a lot of your time doing that over the last 6 months. How is that going?
It's going. Resilient is a great word for our team, because right now we're still closed with the yellow zone because we do have still one resident that's in a red zone. But today is our 2-year anniversary when we first moved in our residence. So we're celebrating and we're passing out goodies all day. And this is a couple of things that we're passing out to our residents. So our staff are coming together doing that. So despite of all that we've gone through, we're doing, we try to do fun things with the residents and staff, and, take the moment to celebrate when we can.
I think that's really important. We get so focused on the pandemic and, all of the situations that we're facing. And sometimes it is hard to remember to do those positive things that really build the team. So I appreciate that. What would you say have been your biggest challenges over the last year?
I think like everyone else, staffing.
I think you bring up a really good point here, Harumi. We actually have a staffing crisis that is affecting not only ACC or California, but the entire nation. And we have lost huge numbers of people from the workforce, particularly in long-term care. So it's definitely impacted ACC, where maybe in years past, we had always enjoyed having sufficient staff. I will say that this team and others have really come together to develop an action plan to address the staffing issues. Human resources has been involved, all of our divisions and our leadership has been involved in developing a staffing action plan that not only addresses where do we recruit people, but how do we bring them on, make them feel welcome. So we've been trying to think outside the box, and how do we let them know that ACC is really a special place to work, and the relationships that they'll build and the professional development that they will have an opportunity for at ACC. So that has been, I agree with you, and I know Yesenia and Tamara would echo this, that staffing has been a huge issue over the last year. And it's really been an all hands on deck approach to be able to address those issues and get quality staff for not only Maple Tree Village, but for all of our facilities and divisions. So I would say that's been job one for all of us for 2021.
Thank you.
You currently have an outbreak situation I know that you're dealing with. Maybe just share a little bit about that, what you're experiencing right now.
Well, I hope, and I feel like we are on a downslide, I guess, of it's not the heights of it anymore. As I said, I only have one resident tested positive last week. I'm hoping this week will be none. Staff that were positive are starting to trickle in, coming back. I feel like the residents have been very, very patient. The family has been amazingly supportive. And I do appreciate you, Melanie, for all your support, all the late night phone calls and things like that. But Tamara and your team has been amazingly helpful in, helping us with when we didn't have dietary staff, and, obviously nursing staff as well. And Yesenia for just being so patient with us with different issues that we've had. So I just feel like the team is amazing. And that's what makes it worth coming to work.
Great. Thank you so much, Harumi. We are looking forward to great things in 2022, hopefully the fill up of MTV.
Yes.
Now I want to turn to Yesenia at Greenhaven Terrace. What are you seeing in terms of census trends in both the independent living and assisted living facilities that you're operating at GT, Yesenia?
Yeah, so hi, Melanie. Thank you so much for having me here today. I actually think that we held pretty steady with our occupancy throughout the pandemic, which was surprising. We got close to filling up all of the 12 residents that had transitioned to Maple Tree Village in the beginning of before the pandemic started. So we averaged about an 80% occupancy in assisted living and 98% in independent living.
Excellent, excellent. I want to take a minute to thank you too, Yesenia. The teamwork again is phenomenal. And we had a month in 2021 where we did not have an administrator for Maple Tree Village. And I really want to thank you for stepping in very quickly and overseeing everything at MTV as well as GT for the month of June last year. As I said, the teamwork is really amazing. So Yesenia, maybe, briefly let everybody know what some of the projects you've been working on. I know you completed a big project with painting at GT, so.
Yeah, so prior to the pandemic, we started a renovation project at GT, and we started in the community room, and we did the library, the conference room, like the main lobby area. But the largest part was, all of the hallways, because we're a tri-level building. And so we were going to paint the rest of the facility, and then COVID happened. So we kind of had to step back a little bit from that. So we finally had a chance to do that this year. And not only did we paint the hallways, but we actually color coded the different floors. And so every alcove of the residents' apartments is a different color on each floor. And the residents are so excited. It happened right before the holidays. And then in the assisted living, we put some wall art up. We still have like one area to finish. And then an upcoming project is actually revamping the lighting in the assisted living wing.
Excellent. Well, we have exciting things to look forward to in 2022 from GT. Next, I want to turn to Tamara at the Care Center, and it has definitely been a busy year. At the beginning of 2021, we had high hopes to see the end of the pandemic. How did you and your team continue to deal with all that is involved with the ever-changing regulations and guidance, and continue to hold on to your mental and physical health during 2021, Tamara?
Well, thank you, Melanie, for this opportunity. It's a very humbling experience to lead during these challenging times. But one of the things that we did is we purposed to learn what matters most to our staff and to our residents. And we were committed to making joy in work a shared responsibility. It was not just for the administrator or just for the managers, but we made it a shared responsibility. And I think that is what has maintained our sanity, that joy of always looking forward to go to work, not knowing what you're going to meet, but really looking at it and knowing that we have a mission and an obligation to care for our residents and for each other. So I think it was that purposed commitment and making it a shared responsibility that is making us still smile and be able to do what we are doing today.
That's great. Maybe talk a little bit about the efforts to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 at ACC in terms of, I know that you had an extremely high rate of residents and staff vaccinated. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the key things is with the mitigation strategies, it's a lot more about adjusting to the changing guidelines and not just for the pandemic. So we are also adjusting for the future. So that always remains at the forefront of what we are doing, and the vaccine rates, kudos to the team. 100% of our residents are fully vaccinated, 99% of our staff are fully vaccinated, and now there is now the booster requirements, and we're so happy that 96% of our residents have received the booster shot, and as of yesterday, 70% of our staff are boosted. So we continue to, again, educate. We believe equipping our staff with knowledge is our best defense in each and everything we do. And we really appreciate the strong physician support that we have from our medical director, Dr. Stringer. Without his guidance during this challenging time, it could have been more challenging. And so we do appreciate that. And our line staff, all the line staff went through the CMS targeted COVID-19 infection training. So that was really important to make sure that everybody in the building is bolstered when it comes to understanding what COVID does from an individual perspective, and then, propelling it to what the requirement is as staff.
Excellent, excellent. Well, and you've had a lot besides COVID going on, besides the staffing crisis. Good things too. I understand that the ACC Care Center is the recipient again this year of U.S. News and World Report. Maybe talk a little bit about what that award is.
It is humbling to be recognized by, getting a national recognition from U.S. News and World Reports for both short-term and long-term care, despite all the daunting tasks that we have to implement, the stringent rules and regulations we have to adhere to. So it really humbled us to see that, oh my goodness, somebody is recognizing that we continue to care fiercely for our residents, and making that, becoming that purveyor of good news is what really the US News sounded to us. They became purveyors of good news, and we wanted to cultivate that, because most of the time we are looking at, working really hard. And so seeing the outcome of what we are doing is very refreshing.
Absolutely. We also have had a couple other exciting things going on at the Care Center. One being the siding replacement. So I know we're going to share some pictures with everybody tonight. Do you want to just say a little bit about what happened with the siding?
Yeah, so we got a facelift, our building did, and we really are so excited, because when we were talking about the siding project, we were very concerned about the noise that will be emitted from, the project, but it turned out to be a really good project for our residents, because they enjoyed looking forward to interacting with the construction workers, some of them directing, oh, I think you forgot something here. And it just became such a joyous atmosphere, something they were looking forward to. And also we were so happy because the project actually was completed, ahead of the timeline that we had. So if you haven't been around the Care Center, please take a ride and just see the new and improved building that we have. And much more, it's not what you see outside, but also inside, we have a lot of things going on that are very positive. Resident engagement is very key to us, making sure our families are involved. And despite the stringent visitation guidelines, we are embracing and having them come in. So partnering not only exterior-wise, but also internally with everything else that we are doing to protect our residents.
Excellent. I know we're also working on a project on Azalea Lane to refurb those rooms, to do cosmetic makeover and change some of the rooms from 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms into private rooms to give more autonomy to people coming in for short-term stays. So how is that project going?
It's gone really well. the pandemic really made it very clear the need for personal space. And so I was very happy to partner with key members of our team and work towards meeting that need. It's a community need for people who are looking for short-term placement. And so the rooms are beautiful. That's the other thing too. The decoration, Melanie, you did a really good job picking up those items. The residents love it. The staff are really, really impressed to see the changes going on. And so we're just very happy with, despite the pandemic, despite the challenges, it has not stopped us from thinking further than that. And our mindset is not just confined to only the challenges, but looking at the possibilities and looking at what are the things that we need to do to make a difference.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tamara. And thank you to all of you. I can't tell you, I can't convey how appreciative I am of everything that you do every day. And by every day, I mean every single day, to make the facilities run in the top-notch condition that they do, and the care that you provide for the residents and for the staff is really unmatched. So thank you all, and we're looking forward to great things in 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie, Tamara, Yesenia, and Harumi, for sharing the experience managing the Care Center Greenhaven Terrace, as well as Maple Tree Village during the last year. Indeed, we have heard a lot of not so good news, but some very good news. Now, next, we have Jeri, who will share with us how she and her staff reopen, rebuild, and reimagine the ACC home and community-based programs.
Good evening, everyone. 2021 was a year of reopening, rebuilding, and reimagining for ACC's home and community-based programs. In the midst of a pandemic that just would not end, we had to figure out ways to safely reopen services for our community of seniors and their families. There were ups and downs and a constant tension between the desire to connect people to the resources they needed and our responsibility to keep even the most vulnerable healthy and safe. For ACC RIDE staff, this meant taking on new responsibilities. In addition to reopening our transportation service in 13 zip code areas and parts of the Delta, taking 866 seniors to medical appointments, grocery shopping, and other outings, Rides provided over 25,000 meal deliveries for Meals on Wheels by ACC, over 8,700 wellness calls to isolated clients and volunteers, and valuable outreach support for our senior escort program. In my mind, they went above and beyond in many instances, like when Kang, one of our drivers, stopped to put out a vehicle fire on the roadside using a Ride's fire extinguisher, or when Hua, another Ride's driver, assisted a client who had fallen in his home and was banging his cane to get attention. Hua was helping to deliver meals for Meals on Wheels when he decided to take a closer look after several doorbell rings went unanswered. Rides truly provides more than just transportation. They are caring friends who provide all kinds of support to the community. ACC Bridge to Healthy Families, our caregiver support programs, experienced a 240% increase in the number of service calls from the community last year, a likely result of the growing burden faced by caregiving families. Not long ago, I received a letter from a caregiver thanking us for the support Bridge to Healthy Families provided him during the extremely stressful process of moving his 95-year-old mother into assisted living. When COVID hit, his mother was confined to living alone for 18 months. It became clear that it was not safe for her to do so, even though she refused to consider any other possibility. In the caregiver's words, Sujin, our program manager, was patient, persistent, and provided culturally sensitive advice. Her reassuring voice and expertise provided the words needed to get critical paperwork done and to persist. Months later, the caregiver's mother called him to let him know how much she appreciated what he had done, as she realized she couldn't live alone, and she appreciated feeling safe. Our staff further arose to the challenge of meeting increased needs for assistance by laying the groundwork for a new ACC Care Navigator program to develop social work staff who can help community members access vital health and social services. Because, as many of us know, sometimes it isn't the lack of resources that's the problem, but the ability to understand options and navigate the process to attain what's needed. ACC's Lifelong Learning and Wellness program reopened in-person classes with strict COVID safety protocols. The Delta variant and now Omicron are stark reminders that we need to be cautious. We reopened in phases, starting with pickleball, our most popular, and small indoor classes. We also continue to grow our online programs in 2021. We broadcasted over 500 live stream programs free of charge to viewers, making it possible to engage many people who would not otherwise be able to connect with ACC. Our topics covered health and fitness to zero-emission vehicles, jung making, how to write your life story, and more. It was a learning process that is building ACC's reputation as a community resource for media outreach and live stream production. Utilities Education and Assistant programs are Team and Changes programs, hired 2 Cantonese and Mandarin-speaking program assistants who dramatically increased ACC's ability to serve non-English speaking older adults in general and provide valuable services specific to Team and Changes. In 2021, we saved over $18,000 in utility charges for our clients, who are predominantly low-income and limited English speaking. We help them access resources like free hot water heaters, free cell phones, and low-cost internet broadband that they would otherwise not be able to afford. Our Senior Community Service Employment Program, or CSEP, began returning participants to in-person job training in 2021. We focused on technology training and providing seniors with on-the-job experiences in exchange for community service. For some, like our participant Diana, these opportunities provided the skills and confidence they needed to find meaningful employment. Diana was over 70 and out of the workforce for many years when she came to CSEP. Life circumstances required her to keep working, and she relished the challenge. Through CSEP, she learned computer skills and connected with a host agency for training that was located a few blocks from her home. In November, her host agency, Sacramento Self-Help Housing, hired her as a caseworker. She says, "I was almost going to give up. The CSEP family has made my life worth living. Thank you so much for your help and guidance." Finally, in 2021, the Sacramento Senior Safety Collaborative Senior Escort Program began as a community response to the rise in anti-Asian hate incidents throughout the country and in Sacramento. Unfortunately, the majority of incidents have been aimed at Asian seniors, leaving many feeling vulnerable or uncomfortable when out in public. Our Home and Community-Based Programs Department took the lead of this grassroots effort. We coordinated staff from across ACC to implement a soft launch of the program, which matches seniors with trained volunteers who accompany them on walks and errands, grocery shopping, and other activities. The volunteers provide an extra set of eyes and ears to report incidents and to help seniors feel safe and supported when out in the community. Our goal for next year is to obtain funding for dedicated staff to fully launch the Senior Escort program in the broader community. In fact, developing an adequate budget to fully staff all of our programs and pay competitive salaries to attract and retain the quality staff we're accustomed to here at ACC is one of our most significant threats as we enter 2022, especially during these uncertain times. Philanthropic giving, gifts and donations to support new and ongoing operations is going to be crucial to ACC's ability to respond to community needs and provide vital resources and connections. Our staff and volunteers are the heart and soul of our department. I want to thank them for their hard work and resilience, and especially for their grace under pressure. In 2021, we came together as a team, like when our caregiver support manager put on Korean cooking demo to the delight of our live stream viewers. or when our employment manager translated in Dari and Persian to support vaccine outreach and help Meals on Wheels clients connect to needed resources, or when RIDE staff figured out a way to reunite 2 longtime ACC volunteers after months of COVID isolation. In the spirit of family, we did what it takes for each other and for our community. We are not out of the pandemic yet, but I have faith that with your support, our staff and volunteers will continue to do great work, building up our levels of service, developing our Care Navigator and Senior Escort programs, and looking for other opportunities to keep our community healthy, active, and living independently in 2022.
Thank you, Jeri, so much for talking about how she and her staff have reopened, rebuilt, and reimagined the ACC Home and Community-Based Services. And it dawns on me that when we started a very humble journey in April 1972, we offer programs similar to what we are doing right now. Information and assistance. We had a citizenship class. We have English as second language. We also offer a very small meal site. And then 50 years, now we have more programs. So going back to the previous 2 presentations, and I think we all have learned from Melanie, Yesenia, Tamara, Harumi, and Jeri. The main challenge for ACC today is really the staffing shortage at our skilled nursing and assisted living facilities, which resulted in lower than average census comparing to previous year. And last year, our operating budget was a bit over $24 million. And our finance department is now in the process of closing the books for 2021. And as a whole, we are projecting to have a net revenue loss. And much of this loss actually is due to the staffing shortage. So let me explain what's going on. So if you look at this slide, basically we see that the ACC Care Center, just last year, we have lost many staff. So if you go to the numbers, in general, we have lost over 40% of staff. So 85 separations out of 209 active staff, and of which 44% are nursing staff. That's 55 separations of 125 active nurse staff. If you look at ACC Maple Tree Village, as a whole, we lost almost 49% of our staff. That's 48 of our 98 active staff within 1 year, and of which 62% are nursing staff. Going to Greenhaven Terrace, they lost a little bit over 40% out of 42 active staff, of which a little bit over 33% are nursing staff. So what does it mean? So there's like a mandated staffing ratio at both the skilled nursing, which is the care center, as well as assisted living at GT and Maple Tree Village. So it basically requires how many staff we need to hire before we can have the residents coming in to be served by us. And so for the care center, the average census, if you look at the end of 2019, we reached over 95%, which was very great. But then at the end of December 31st, it dropped under 77%. And most recently, because of the resurgence of COVID-19 caused by the Omicron variant, our daily average census at the care center dropped under 60%. As you heard from Melanie and Harumi at the Maple Tree Village, instead of reaching an occupancy of 95% at the end of December 2020, we only had 34 residents. And this was equivalent to approximately 1/3 of the total occupancy. And even after 24 months of opening, we have some good news, but it's under 60% as of last Friday. So during the height of staffing shortages, the cost for paying temporary registry service workers at Maple Tree Village was approximately $25,000 every 2 weeks. And as of the end of last year in December, we had paid approximately $350,000 in purchase services. And that's a very, very expensive kind of item. It's also very hard to recruit in this current climate, as ACC is not only competing with other owner-operators of senior living, but also with such places as McDonald's. Say, for example, I just look at an ad. The average pay is between $15 to $18, and at a restaurant of McDonald's on Pocket Road, they're paying $16 per hour for a crew team member, plus $3,000 per year for higher learning. And then we're also competing with a hospital system. A former staff who left ACC and now with one of the major hospitals was asked to work actually as the COVID wing. And we are told that this individual got paid like $113 per hour. So this is really, really hard to compete. So during the time when Melanie and Tamara and also Yesenia and Harumi talk about the reflection on year 2021, she indicated that she, along with the human resources and other senior leaders, have developed a staffing action plan which is brilliant. And so now we are using Apploy as the new healthcare recruiting software. We're offering premium hazard pay for staff working in yellow and red zones by paying them like $2 per hour up to $4 per hour at the Care Center, Greenhaven Terrace, and Maple Tree Village. We're also offering ACC-wide referral bonus, as well as competitive pay. So much for the not so good news. Now let's look at the good news. I'm really thankful to the foresight of our former and current board members. ACC has been fiscally conservative in the way how we invest money and control the cost. And as a result, we will be able to offset any anticipated loss in revenue with a Small Business Administration Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness of close to $1.9 million, and also with our unrestricted funds. So kudos to all the board members for really helping us out. And as you may also be aware, this year we are celebrating our 50th anniversary. And our organization has a 50-year history of showing strength and resiliency, from our activist and protest days of the early 70s to the building of nursing home, the developments of ACC Greenhaven Terrace, ACC Rides, programs, lifelong learning, wellness, social services, Meals on Wheels by ACC, Maple Tree Village, and our profound influence on so many nonprofit groups in Sacramento. So in terms of plans for this coming year, we are going to remain very resilient. We continue to implement the COVID-19 recovery plan for ACC, which we developed last year. So for example, we will protect all staff, volunteers, and residents and clients by continuing to procure PPEs. Just like this morning, I just put an order for more N95 because we see that with the Omicron variant, N95 would be the most effective in helping our staff, volunteers, residents, and clients be protected. I will also be addressing operational challenges and obstacles affecting the 3 facilities and to provide feasible interventions to resolve the issue. And in addition to the staffing action plan developed by Melanie and the human resources and other senior leaders, we are looking at recruiting nurses and care staff from overseas to address critical staffing issues. Just this last November and December, I have vetted 3 different immigration attorneys. We are in the process of developing the staff summary sheet, which I will present to the executive committee this Friday, and then to the full board next Monday, so that we can choose the right immigration attorney to help us in hiring overseas candidates. Of course, as a kind of matter of fact, we continue to monitor the occupancy of the 3 facilities and also monitor cash flow and expenses, and then work with the finance committee on the best way to maximize and preserve cash reserves. But one thing which is really intriguing me and really excites me is the exploration of looking at how we meet service needs and financial viability in the future. Just last year, the board has asked that I look into possibility of having home and community-based services, including home health, home care, hospice, palliative care, no wrong door system, and also the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. And also, we will look into other staffing models, other revenue models, working with staff on marketing and fund development strategies. And to give you an update of how we look seriously into home and community-based services, last year we vetted 5 contractors, including some local and some from the East Coast. And finally, we were able to retain Prisma Health PACE Consulting to help us look at the marketing, financial, and operational feasibility of having a program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. For those of you who don't know about this program, this is an alternative to skilled nursing, founded back in 1970s by Unlock Senior Health Services, with a notion to provide an alternative for individuals who want to stay at home but want to have medical, nursing, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, podiatry, dentistry, social work, nutrition, transportation, so on and so forth. So our board heard the final presentation from the consultant, and this year, if COVID is improving with the situation, we plan to conduct some site visits if possible. We also will look at some partnership opportunities so that we will be able to offer the service, not this year, not next year, but years to come. So please stay tuned. Now, many years ago, many of you have heard that we rebrand ourselves as ACC Senior Services, and we have a tagline called Community of Caring. And this really ties into the thousands of volunteers and donors who have supported ACC for 5 decades, doing everything from running bingo, working at fundraisers, teaching yoga, caring for residents, serving on the board and committees, and even doing laundry at the care center when it was first opened back in 1987. So kudos and hats off to all those volunteers. And henceforth, we are really a community of caring, not just by staff, but by volunteers. And last year, we had a very successful Big Day of Giving. But more importantly, I would like to ask our board chair, Jean, to talk to all of us some of the plans that she has been working with many of us, staff and volunteers alike, on how to celebrate our 50th anniversary. So over to you, Jean.
Well, thank you, Darrick. And so I have put together a 50th anniversary work group, and this really started with Ted Fong, who's the brainchild behind the ACC History Project. ACC put on 5 programs last year documenting the very beginnings of ACC with ACC's incorporation in 1972. So here we are 50 years later with plans for celebrating ACC's 50 years in 2022. So I put together this work group. I talked to past board members and longtime volunteers, Gloria Imagiri and Lori Lee, to be co-chairs. I've also recruited other longtime volunteers, board members, and ACC staff to be part of this really fun and exciting work group. So with the 50th anniversary comes the opportunity to fundraise. And in working with ACC's new Director of Marketing and Development, Kala Haley Clark, and working with the Fund Development Committee, we will work very hard in this 50th anniversary year for donations and sponsorships. And we have set a lofty goal of raising $1.5 million in 2022, which is really needed to sustain ACC operations with the many challenges ACC has weathered due to the pandemic that Darrick talked about, Melanie talked about, Jeri, Yesenia, Tamara, and Harumi, that we really have weathered a lot through ACC, and we really want to work together and raise more money and raise funds. And so we'll get this work group meeting on planning for events throughout 2022. We've talked about discussing having a retro bingo night or event and a retro craft and bake sales event. These are past fun events for ACC, and we look forward to planning those events. And we will have a new event this year with longtime volunteer Wayne Kurohara taking the lead. He came up with this great idea for a walkathon where people will enjoy the outdoors and have teams. And we will planning to hold this new event in the fall. And so look forward to hearing more about that, where we'll have teams and people challenging to raise money. So we'll put together a lot of teams and have a great time outside, having a good time walking. So we also have plans for a 50th anniversary gala event in the fall to take the place of the annual Care Center fundraiser, but we don't quite know how this event will be yet, as we don't know. We have to plan for safe events and not knowing how the virus surges, but we do look to have events outdoors. We may require proof of vaccination for any indoor events, and we also have to be able to ready to pivot in case something happens. So we'll keep you informed as these events roll out, and so I'm looking to having a great time in 2022 for the 50th anniversary. So stay tuned, and we'll keep you informed of all that. So now I'd like to open it up for any questions from the audience. We've had some comments in the chat room, the chat box. So if you want to put your question in the chat for us, we'll take any questions that you may have regarding operations, anything that Darrick talked about, anything about the staff talked about, or the 50th anniversary. So don't be shy, and we're here to answer any questions. So I'm waiting for Ted to see if anything's popping up. This is an opportunity for you to talk it up with us.
You can also unmute.
Also, you can also unmute and talk to us live. Raise your hand. So we're not seeing anything. Shy group tonight, huh?
There's a hand.
We have a hand from Kala.
I don't have any questions because I'm working alongside you for all of this. I just want to say that I think this was a wonderful meeting. This is my first annual meeting with ACC. Getting to know everybody that supports this organization has been one of the high points of my professional career. And I look forward to having a wonderful 50th anniversary with all of you.
So we'll do a quick introduction. That was Kala, who we'll be working with, as she's the new Marketing and Development Director for ACC. And I'm really excited to work with her. She has a lot of great ideas, a lot of great energy. So stay along for the wild ride we're going to have in 2022.
I'll buckle in my seatbelt.
Okay, you're on.
Yes, I mentioned during my remarks, Kala really has been working very hard, look at restructuring the department. And so I would say she has almost full staff. And so she will do a lot of different things and try to make sure that we have been able to process the payments on time, acknowledging the donors, and also look at some other innovative ways of bringing more revenue to ACC Senior Services.
So we're not seeing anything in the chat room, and we're not seeing any more hands up. So I want to close this out. Thank you for attending the annual membership meeting. The ACC staff were very informative on how they have worked through the pandemic. We cheer them on. I cheer Darrick on. I cheer Melanie on, and all the staff. They've worked really hard for ACC, and we look forward to your participation and support of ACC programs and events in 2022, our 50th anniversary year. So have a wonderful evening, and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Darrick.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you all for joining us tonight.